Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team. And what I want to talk about today is just the very dynamic comparison between the Beasts of Chaos Minotaurs and their Razorgors. So, looking on paper, it's almost as if GW designed these to be as close as possible. When it comes to big monsters in, medium monsters in the Beast book, there really is only the Minotaurs or the Razorgors, and they both happen to be exactly 55 points, which makes a lot of direct comparisons possible. But the problem is that they're so vastly different in their special rules that they really serve very different purposes. So we're just going to be going over some of these things right now. So the first thing, run across the stat line. That's the very first easiest thing to do. So both of them, you see your Razorgor, it's a little bit faster, not a big deal anymore. That's just the 1 inch advantage. One big thing, weapon skill. Minotaurs have the one better weapon skill, and that can be a huge deal. If you're up against something that's weapon skill 3, that can be a huge advantage to the Minotaurs. So it really happens, or depends what your metagame is. So if you're up against a lot of Lizardmen or something, which are all weapon skill 3, well, then all of a sudden we have an automatic winner here. Whereas if you were up against Warriors of Chaos, doesn't matter whatsoever. Let's just skill. I don't even know why Minotaurs even have one. And strength toughness. It actually turns out that the Minotaurs are actually weaker. They have the one less toughness, so they're going to be taking some little bit more damage there. Wounds are the same. Minotaurs are a little bit faster in initiative. Attacks, actually turns out Razorgors have one more attack, but of course on the opposite side of that, the Minotaurs have the impact hits. So, but we're going to be getting to this in a second. And then the last thing is leadership, and the Razorgors are a little bit worse with leadership. They have one less, but then again, it's a real question of character placement. So, when you're looking at this, it already looks fairly much the same. Right off the bat, I know one of the things I'd rather have, if you're looking at which one you're going to compare, the better weapon skill or the better toughness, I'd rather have the better toughness all the time, because that better toughness almost always plays a factor, whereas that weapon skill can be a little bit willy-nilly. Now, the other thing is the whole idea of the impact hits. So each of them have a special rule for when they're attacking. The Minotaur has the impact hit, which is just an automatic bam, whereas the Razorgors actually have their thunderous charge, and they have +1 strength. So, all of a sudden that's bumping them up to the strength 6, so they can be hitting extremely hard on that first charge. And another big thing to be saying this, even though they're only movement 7 compared to movement 6, the big thing that they have is a swift stride rule, so that you're rolling the 3d6 take the 2 highest. So really, if you're looking between the two of them, there's actually the Razorgors being the charge off more often than the Minotaurs. So I think that right now we're looking at an advantage to the Razorgors, just because on average between the two units, the Razorgor should hit first. And one of the things you could say is that, well, what if we're thinking of a large horde, right? We're talking about something that's 6 wide, multiple ranks, so that that third rank could attack. Well, then we could argue that between the two of them, we wouldn't want the Razorgor, because that extra attack that they have would be completely wasted. That's one thing to look at. Whereas if you're just talking about, say, like a unit of 3 or 4, well, then you'd want to go with the Razorgors, because they have full advantage of this, right? They're going to be all hitting it hard on the front. But then again, with the Minotaurs, they have options. And this is something where it makes them very difficult, because Minotaurs, they have a lot of tactical advantages from their options here. You could be giving them the additional hand weapons. You could be giving them the great weapons, which, depending if you're wanting to use them against monsters or what, they probably don't even really need that anymore. But, and they also, a big thing that they can have is they can get the command, and also one of their commands can also be getting some magic items. So there's a lot of different tactical flexibility you could be using that for, right? The musician lets you switch reform, who knows what tricky stuff you can put on that champ. But then again, you have to remember that you're paying points for this, and when you're looking at this, just an additional hand weapon is an extra 4 points per model, whereas the Razorgor got that extra attack as it was. So when you're looking at all those, you have to remember that for all these extra things you can do, there is that price attached, and when it comes to these monsters, these prices can be fairly high. So far we've kind of looked at the stats. They're still kind of like, maybe Razorgors a little bit better. We looked at some of the advantages to charging. Seems to be kind of in the Razorgors side. And then we were looking at the tactical flexibility and saying that Minotaurs were a little bit better even though they pay for it. But here's the number one thing I want to get across to you, and I guess it took me 5 minutes to get to it, but I want to lay things out first. The reason why I don't like Minotaurs is because of their blood greed. Now, I know some people love them because of that rule. I've had people argue with me that when they have a big block of these guys and they get into a fight, one of the problems these monsters are going to have is that unless you kill a lot of things, they're going to be steadfast, your opponents. You're not going to be breaking them. So at least your Minotaurs will be able to get a lot more attacks, and eventually they're just wiping out whole units. Well, I guess that could be the case, but the bigger problem here, and something that I take advantage of them all the time, is the fact that, first of all, if they ever win a combat, they're becoming frenzied, and when you're frenzied, you have to chase somebody if they flee, and when they chase somebody, it's only 1d6. So almost all the time, basically what that means is that they're just going, ha, and standing there. And so whereas other units, would have the opportunity to say, I don't want to charge, I want to reform, these guys can't do that. And so when I was playing against them, this is in 7th, but everything works the same here in 8th. Just throw a block at them, right? You hack down a couple of Minotaurs, oh, I lost, I run and get away, I rally, do it again. Or, something hits the flank. And it's going to be so easy to set up that flank charges on these guys, because whereas other people, it doesn't work, right? Because you charge something, you beat it, you reform, so you're not hitting a flank anymore. Well, now, no, that's not the case. You have your unit move up, and you just tilt it, the Minotaurs have to hit it, line up, and then they'll have to overrun just the D6, so a little tiny bit, and then boom, you can hit the flank. And that is just such a huge drawback. So as much as I can talk about how they're kind of close, I gotta give it to the Razorgors. Just that one, any good opponent will know how to really steal that away from the Minotaurs and just crush them. Oh, sure, you killed that one small unit, but now I've hit you in the flank and you're toast. I break you and I run you down. And, I guess maybe a good Beastman player, you could be being very careful with that, making sure to try and protect it so that if you do get baited, you're moving something else to protect it. But in the end, I just rather have the Razorgors. They're faster, they hit harder without having to pay any points, they have a higher toughness, so you won't be losing any, and in the end, they're more flexible in that they won't have to just overrun and get flanked. And I think the only reason why people are taking Minotaurs over Razorgors are that, first of all, the Minotaurs look better, and they're cheaper, as far as cost-wise to buy the models. So for people that actually want to buy models for what they're going to do in the game and what the look, not what the look is, I really think you should be going for Razorgors. And some cheap ways to actually be making Razorgors is if you take the Orc and Goblin boar boys, you take those boars, it's going to take a little bit of green stuffing, maybe buy a another box of spawns so you can put the little bits on there you want, like little tentacles, whatever you want, or maybe just green stuff them to be big boars, right? But that should be a very easy and cost-efficient way to get these guys. And I mean, right there, I think, what is it, a box of them is something like $25 or $30, and half the cost of the Minotaurs, and they're going to be, in my opinion, much better. The only counter I have to that is the character. Whereas, you're not really going to have any character going with the Razorgors because it's going to be slowing them down. Well, you might have that Doom Bowl or something that's going to go with the Minotaurs. And then you can have a little bit of synergy where the character can start with, say, your Bestigors, give them Frenzy, and then come back to your Minotaurs. So you can work that out a little bit. But again, I'd only save that if you're a very well experienced Beastman player and control that forced overrun, because I can guarantee you, if you're using it against me, I'm going to be doing everything I can to take advantage of that, and it could be that your very expensive unit of Minotaurs is going to be a complete waste when I just flank them and beat them and break them. So anyway, there you go. There's our comparison. Points wise are the same, stat wise pretty close, but when it comes down to it, it's just that the Minotaurs have such one huge detriment in their special rules that I go with the Razorgors every single time. So there you have it, and next time we're going to be talking about ogres in 8th. So see you then. Bye.